Oh, that's funny. I'm using the wrong camera. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Hello.
Here. Let's see, what are we gonna do?
So I'm in Estonia on a family trip. We're going for a wedding. So the background is a bit different. It's called Hotel Room. Hello, Mark. How are you feeling?
Knackered, but otherwise all right.
Yeah, good.
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, I can hear
I
you.
think we missed you. We missed you last Friday. Were
Uh,
you there?
yes, I've been laid low by sciatica recently, so I've been off my feet, but it's getting better slowly.
Good.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. So my computer's running a bit low on resources. So what we agreed on last week, Bob had the idea of trying to map out our unknowns. So the question then becomes, first of all, through what medium should we do that? Should we, yeah, basically what software?
Well, it helps to have one of those little sticky programs, the little programs that have Post-it note things sometimes for that, for generating a whole bunch of ideas and collecting them someplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, do you have a specific suggestion or thoughts?
Well, the question that arises from that is, if we want to do it as a shared thing, then it'll need to be some online thing, and I don't particularly have a something I know particularly well. There are various things like Trello and the like, but I'm not at all expert with them. I mean, I tend to collect stuff up in Tinderbox, but that's a single user app, so I'm not sure that necessarily helps because short of sharing a screen, I can't immediately put that out for everybody.
But sharing a screen is not a bad thing. I don't mind as long as a completed artifact can go up, and also this thing that we often come up against, people say, oh no, we should all be able to edit it. I think that can make things quite messy.
Well, for sake of argument, I'll just share a screen briefly and you can tell me what this flies. Let's see, we got the right screen. So hopefully you can see this. So this is just a blank Tinderbox document. In fact, I don't really, well, I mean, point is, if I make a document here, then this is just information about a note. But frankly, probably really what we want is just a large open space like this that we can put ideas in. And apart from the fact I'm a really rubbish typist, I think if that helps, that's fine.
Hi guys, we're just trying to figure out what software to use to map our unknowns. Anybody have any strong preferences or medium preferences or even weak preferences? Should we do it with a share? Fabian, I haven't seen you in a while, but your beard has gotten longer, so at least we know time has passed.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I was just saying, we haven't seen you in a while, but your beard has grown longer, so at least we know that something has happened.
I had some comments just this morning that apparently it should be taken care of. So maybe before the next meeting, you'll see a nicer beard. Who knows?
Okay. By the way, Brandel, I got an email from Vint today suggesting that I have to get this book. It looks really cool. Of course, it's the Annie Paul book that you suggested to us. So he was very happy that it's already in our community. I mentioned you had already suggested it to us. He was at a meeting,
yeah,
something. And, so that's quite cool. Right. So today is the mapping. Any suggestions how we should do it? We could do it anywhere, really. Should we do it in a kind of a loose mind mappy type way, or should we just start writing lists, or should we just chat and then take our own notes and see what happens in the transcript? Or something else? Well, since you all
I
have
don't have a
such strong,
preference.
okay, I was going to say, since you all have such strong opinions on this, let me just check this out. Okay. Bob, I have misophonia, so could you please mute while you're chewing? Otherwise, my head will blow off.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry, and thank you. It's an annoying condition, but there you go. Right, so, okay, I'm going to start sharing screen then. And we're going to go here. And we're going to call it, what are we going to call it? Mapping unknowns for connections. Something like that. I can't see you guys. If you're nodding, then, you know, cool, but
Yeah, I was nodding.
so what's the first thing we should put down? Maybe we should put down our knowns first. Could we maybe discuss what we mean by unknowns? So I'm just trying to get you guys onto the screen here. That's strange. Sometimes it just doesn't follow.
Oh, that's where you've gone.
What? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna have to do it this way, so I have some. Bob, this was your idea, which we all completely agree with, so you get the honor of kicking it off.
Hey, sorry, it's now the time.
Oh, sorry, you're still muted. That was my fault.
I don't know. What are the general domains of
Yeah.
the kinds of
Yeah.
of discourse that we want to study together in this group. In other and so we don't know what our taxonomy, general, even rough taxonomy of these domains might be. And what I mean by that is there's a whole domain of scientific research reports, for example, that are on the internet and are definitely relevant to what we're doing at some time, and relevant certainly to what other people are doing. And the abstracts of those documents. We don't have a good taxonomy that is shared. When I say good, I often mean, laid out enough such that we can share it and make progress on it. Nothing that's perfect. So those kind of things would help. Having those would help, in my estimation, us carve out different areas where we're sharing the same context for discussions.
So I went over while you were talking to these pictures. This is us yesterday. It was our wedding anniversary. So we went to do a sculpting day. and I'm not trying to change the subject. I'm just trying to say that in addition to the kind of dream we have of interacting with our knowledge as though it's clay, so to speak, we mustn't forget that our hands is one tool. But look at all these other tools that are used in knowledge interaction, in interacting with clay. What are kind of our knowledge interaction tools? They should be many. I just wanted to add that to what you were saying. That may be worth thinking about as well.
Yes, add it.
But I don't know. And so you asked a series of really good questions there. And I want to follow that up by asking the group, why in the world would we want to make such a map? You know, for what use? Is it to just have some kind of I hate the T word, but there you go, taxonomy? Or is it to know better where things are missing? And if it is to know what's missing, maybe we should start in separate colored pens, so to speak, to write what the knowns are.
So well. So stressed.
Well, so the knowns that I like are that we, to follow from Vince's new favorite book, is that our minds basically exist to pilot our bodies through the world as we perceive it. And so it's for seeing color and shape and motion and similarity and faces, that our hands are complicated manipulators, and they have very high degrees of freedom, but that tool use results in neural changes that are reflective of our minds actually, or our brains, understanding our tools to be literal extensions of our bodies, so that our mind map, in the sense of the way that our brains work, actually accommodates tools in the same sense, so that you anticipate pain. Your mental model of the traversable space around you begins to accommodate the distance and the length of the tool. So between those things, that seems like that would be possible to use to exploit in the context of information processing.
So I've noted some of that down here. And I added my little thing of that I like to say these days. So one of the most profound things a person can do is choose where to stand, to see. Obviously, it's just a different way of saying views matter. And if we talk about politics or religion or even scientific issues, how you choose to position yourself determines how you see what you're looking at, right? So maybe instead of focusing on seeing the connections of the information, we can look into how we can, practically speaking, change where we are. Like walk a mile in someone else's shoes type of thing. Is that relevant to this discussion?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the core that's the core thesis that Jeremy Bailenson explores at the Virtual Human Interaction Lab at Stanford. Is if you did the book Experience on Demand, talks about a couple of experiences that they've recorded, becoming homeless and cutting down the last tree in a rainforest in order to assess what kind of impact it has on your paper towel use. So the total percept has an impact on what you consider to be important.
Yeah, one of the sections I was working on today, as I think you know, in Estonia, we went to the port of Tallinn, which is a nice museum, very much like the San Francisco docks. And I ended up sitting there working on my thesis corrections. And one of the things I had a real problem with was the language. I'm too personal. It should be more academic. And there's a section where I'm saying that we don't really know how thoughts go from thoughts to paper and back again. The literature isn't actually that strong. Do we maybe want to look at that as well? Because considering the book Language versus Reality, we have to be very careful with what is on there. You know, we talk about knowledge graphs. It's not actually knowledge there, is it? But it is pointers to knowledge. So maybe just to even start developing the language in our group might be useful. You know, what we mean by this and that. Because even to define what text is, if you want to do it to the point where an alien could understand it, it's almost impossible, isn't it?
Well, I start out from the assumption, roughly, a rough assumption, that we think somehow in not well defined, but sometimes well enough defined idea chunks. That is, little chunks of information. Sometimes we call them snippets in our past conversations here, and all kinds of other names, ideas, concepts, etc. Are all names that we give these little chunks. Then the question becomes, in which, for me at least, in which domains can we identify, can we work and make progress in putting together idea chunks and relating them. So it then becomes important to say what size of the items that we're going to relate or connect. What is the size of the document? I think at some point we need both more general and for specific kinds of documents, more specific set of idea chunks. I think that the visual meta descriptions, as I understand them, just relate whole documents to one another, and to some degree also with the addition of the definitions at the end, enable us to relate a whole bunch of different kinds of definitions at some point. But those can be fairly large document relationships, and often in our thinking, we want to collect a bunch of put together in some way or another, sometimes in diagramming, as I've suggested, a bunch of other idea chunks from different documents. So we need some sort of way, and we don't know how to do this very well. I've worked on the problem a bit, but I think that there's plenty of work to be done and plenty of unknowns to be corralled.
Indeed, I'm trying to note some of that down. Mark, did you want to say something specific, or
no? You can. I just put some things in the chat that they're not things particularly that I think, but I'm raising, but they've just been that have floated around here. One thing I do note already is we seem to be bouncing from the quite contained to the really, really very open and conceptual, and I think it's difficult to do all these things at once. They're all sort of relevant, but I sense that You know, something I take from Bob's comment just now is it's worthwhile to look at least some things that are not that are so actionable as opposed to being purely conjectural, because the conjectural part's interesting. We talk about them a lot, and that, you know, that's good to do on an ongoing basis, but it doesn't necessarily get us anywhere demonstrable. And it might be useful to have some things where at least we can get some traction and you know, show some, to create some things in essence to show others.
My favorite area is, of course, documents, rather than textual knowledge in general. Of course, there are many valid ones. And I've been in email back and forth with Vint today regarding a realization. When I was on the flight over here, I was thinking half, oh, how can I promote Visual Meta? And then the other half was, oh, how can I promote Author? And I was thinking for Visual Meta with Vint's pull, maybe we can get a plugin for web browser. So when you read a PDF on the web, you can use it, or maybe in Google Docs. But to do any kind of change like that, it has to be both on the production and consumption end. Because what's the point of having Visual Meta copied onto the clipboard for a citation if you can't paste it anywhere useful? So if we want to talk about infrastructures to enable document connections internally and externally and so on, personally, I would find that very gratifying. And Bob, your comment on Visual Meta being more about documents, that is mostly right, absolutely. I mean, the whole document, it does have structural knowledge in it so that you know
Yes.
what's headings and all of that. But to
Yeah,
make it more would be very useful.
And people, you know, my comment about that is that people fail to put very many good subheadings and show the structure of their documents very often. So that's one of, you know, how, you know, and maybe it is a question as to how we could have artificial intelligence produce, you know, good subhead, relatively good, not perfect, again, relatively good subheadings within large documents where the author just blabs on and on and on, paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, and you can't scan and skip to what you really want to know because the subheads are not there. And hence you can't do it with Visual Meta.
Well, I see your hand, Peter. Just briefly to address, well, by the way, this is such an annoying Mac thing now. It chooses what to put on the cloud and not have local. I'm working on this document every day, but it keeps removing it from my hard drive. So silly. Okay, we're waiting for that. Please go ahead, Peter. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I dropped 2 links in the sidebar. One was to a fascinating paper by David Small in the IBM Systems Journal. And the second link was to the table of contents of that issue, which also had a couple of related articles that might be of interest. David Small's piece was visualizing large bodies of text. And here you have all of Shakespeare's plays. And this is how he was doing it in 3-dimensional space back at the MIT Media Lab before we had the convenient hardware and software affordances that we do today. So that's an absolute must-read article.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure, does anyone know what happened to him? I know he was working as an associate professor for a little while, and he sort of dropped off the map.
Will this go into our into the journal so we can then click on it and
To answer
read
that
it?
question, you know, we have all kinds of hello, and then we have links to the journal. But we also have the following under, oops, here's a space issue. Under community, we have general resources.
Uh-huh.
So in the general resources is where I put your documents, Bob.
Oh, okay, great.
So they're linked
Very
both by your name and tagged by Bob Horn, like we have by Brandel and so on.
Yep.
We also have a chat log. So you can go through and you can also see if there was a guest speaker, it'll be listed. Most of them I've made clickable, but since it has to be done manually, sometimes I miss them.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that is in our chat log will be there, yes. And just to answer your question about the